Hello, students and viewers. This is Professor Dr. Zia Ahmed. In order to teach my students of Pakistani literature, and today's focus is on Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of Sidhwa's novel, Ice Candyman. But before we proceed further, let us remind ourselves what this novel is all about. As most of my students know, that this novel is the political history of Indo-Pak subcontinent, and more specifically, the history of Pakistan. Besides this, it's a minority paradigm as well, because the writer is a Parsee, and she has focused a lot on her culture and their status being a Parsee in colonized India. And besides that, we have some interesting characters here. Number one is yes, we have Haji Waqas here. That's good. Since when he became a Haji, that's a new information for me. Anyways, every one of you should become Haji as soon as possible. Well, coming back to the lecture, that it has certain interesting characters as well. One of them is Lenny, and we also have Imam Deen. And besides that, we have Aya Shanta, that is also one of the important characters. And well, students, I can visualize that only 3 people are watching this lecture. All remaining have just signed in and ran away. So come back, everybody, so that we can have an interesting discussion. So with this information that I have spoken, first of all, we can start with our lecture of today. And here comes, chapter 5. I'm making you see the chapter 5, so have a concentration on that. Here is chapter 5 visible for you. And the first line of chapter 5 that we shall be trying to understand, first of all. And here you see the chapter 5 is visualized before you. The very first line is, rich men's wives and children soar to Simla or Kashmir hills in summer. We also soar, but to the lesser Murray hills at the foot of Himalayas. Now, this is something which sets the tone of the chapter, that the society under the British colonialism is divided into the upper portions and the lower portions. So the rich people who are in the upper portion of social status, they had gone to Simla, the highest place, and the people who were not so rich, not so very much powerful, they had gone to Murray, which is a lesser, higher hill as compared to those of Kashmir. So in that way, the division between the upper ups and the lower downs is being pointed out in the very first line of the chapter. This division will be reverberating itself as soon as the writer would come back in order to discuss with the political matter of the whole thing that the writer wants to discuss. Now, you see, I'm taking you to the real paragraph that we are interested in. For example, here is one green paragraph. It says, I'm about to shake heaven and earth to set things right when I'm an astonishing tidal wave of relief and frivolity battles over the world. Shopkeepers in the Murray Hills have picked out a few words from the static there. That is 1944 radios, and happiness strikes all hearts. Men, women, beast, mountain, tall pony, and short donkey all exult. Simultaneously, we know that the war is over. We have won. Victory. The war is over. Faces around me are wreathed in smile. Incredibly, father is blowing a whistle that uncoils a foot-long paper tongue. God, I have never been so happy. I who have subversively hoped that the defector Boers and the Japanese enemy win the war. All the same, I am swept by a sense of relief so unburdening that I realized I was born with an awareness of the war, and I recall the dim, faraway fear of bombs that tinged with bitterness my mother's milk. No wonder I was a colicky baby. This paragraph is significant in many ways. Number one thing is that people are in Murray. That's not significant to talk about. But the significant thing is that as soon as the news of the end of the war and the British victory, that is of the Second World War, comes on the radio, everybody becomes happy. Sidhwa, in her characteristic humorous way, says that men, women, beast, mountain, tall pony, and short donkey all were happy. This is significant. Men, women may be happy, but how about the animals and how about the mountains? They should also be happy. So that's the type of humor she would like to talk about. In that way, this paragraph takes us back to the political history of the Indo-Pak subcontinent when it was under the British colonialism. Definitely, India was not fighting as a country, it was not fighting with the Japanese or with the Germans, but as a colony of the British people, it was fighting with these people. And ultimately, the defeat had occurred because of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the atomic bombs by the American army. And so the victory had come there. So that victory is being celebrated by the people of India also. Perhaps they, being the subjects to the colonial master, they were bound to celebrate this victory. But because of this war, the businesses possibly had stopped or the profits were not coming up. And the fear of being bombed by the German and Japanese was present. And that is why everyone is feeling happy. But this happiness is specially discussed in the end of the paragraph that the father of Lenny was very happy. He was extremely happy because he perhaps was thinking and was terrified that Japanese army may win the war. But it was the case that Japanese had not won. So that's why he says he was very happy. His happiness has been indicated to us by the writer by telling that there was a whistle being blown by the father, and that whistle was being blown through foot-long paper. It's a similar type of arrangement as you have in the cricket, the kind of bampu you make in the same way that happiness was being celebrated. So the paragraph also takes us back to 1940s because the radio was present. The radio was the most important source of information at that time. So the time is highlighted, and alongside that, Murray Hills and Kashmir Hills, all these things are talked about. The places are also present here. And more so the history of the subcontinent, that when it was the British colony, British government, the colony was there, and so what was the condition at that time, and how would the Parsees feel at that time when the war had been won? So in that way, the chapter is going to be a lot discussion will be taking place regarding the war, the victory, and the Parsi culture as well. Let's go down and see what more important things possibly can be there. Well, before we proceed towards the war aspect and the victory aspect, we perhaps will be required to talk something about the details of the subcontinent and details of lots of things will be coming up. But before that, let me talk to you people as I'm going down to the paragraph that we need to discuss. I want to tell you that Colonel Barucha is the person who was very important for the family of this Lenny, and he was very important among the Parsees as well. That Colonel Barucha was not only a colonel doctor, but also he was a person who was the head of the Parsi people, and he was a type of leader as well. So in that way, how the Parsees go to on their Jashan day, on their Jashan day or Jashan Din, one can say, how do they go there into the churches, into their fire temples, and there they worship, and what kind of worships takes place, everything has been talked about. As it was talked so much in the chapter in detail, so I skipped all that. Just we should know that many people gather together on that day, and they go to the church, and they worship the fire, and they sing the songs, and ultimately they come together in a hall in order to receive the kind of addresses which their leaders may be making. The same thing has taken place here, but alongside that, the political aspect has not left the narrative of the Ice Candy Man. Political aspect in the sense that we will be very much surprised and upset to know that this political aspect again and again comes to us whenever even these Parsees are talking about their freedom, or they are talking about many other aspects of the novel as well. These things come up at that time when these people are there. For example, in this chapter, we find the mention of Colonel Barucha again and again, and he was going to address a type of party, a type of gathering of these people. As you can see in this page also, the beginning paragraph says we enter the main hall. So hall room has been arranged in order to let these people talk about what they have gathered for. They may be discussing the political situation as well. So all types of Parsees are involved into that. And these Parsees, if you will go into the details, you will be able to find that these Parsees are from different parts of India, and some have come from outside as well. And they mention certain words. For example, here, as you see, the cursor is there on Ahura Mazda. That goes to show their connection with the god, which they worship possibly. And all these things would indicate that there is a mention of the Parsi culture as well in whole of the paragraph through the tongue of Colonel Barucha sometime, and sometime other people, sometime some women as well. And all these people are present right now in order to discuss what has been going on, and how do the priests talk about that, and how do the people discuss these things. This all has been talked about in detail. So let's go. What does Colonel Brucha try to bring before us, which is definitely very, very important. So if you will read through these paragraphs, you will be able to find what is going on. For example, here the big question that these Parsi people will be discussing is that how the Parsi people can remain in India. That's a political question to them. For example, they are discussing that what possibly the Sikh people can get, what possibly the Hindu people can get, and Muslim people can get. They say that everybody will be able to get a share in the Indian land when the British leave. For example, Hindus may be getting their Hindustan, and the possibility is that the Pakistani people may be getting their Pakistan, and even Sikhs may be getting anything. They say that in such a situation, what the Parsis will be getting, that's a big question that is being asked by the leaders of these Parsi people. They're asking a question, what is going to happen? At that time, they are all worried at that time. Everyone is saying that India and Indian people are, putting their people in the jail. Hindu people are going into the jail, and this jail thing is going to create heroship among the people. And they say, the Parsi people say that, yeah, they are not going to go to the jail at all, and they're not going to take part in that way. So therefore, they remove the possibility of a political struggle among the Parsi people. Colonel Bucha goes to say that. Instead of that, he says that we are the business people, and so we need to go with the hare and with the hunter as well. So in that way, if you look at this page, which is quite visible on the screen, you will be able to find something special. Like a second passage, if we have a little bit of the attention here, it said, Colonel Brucha, again answering his own question, continues, our forefathers carefully stirred a teaspoon of sugar into the milk and sent it back. So this is the gist of the whole chapter. If you will go a little bit up the page and a little bit down the page, you will be shown the incident of the time when the Parsi people had migrated from Iran, which was called at that time Persia, and they had migrated to various parts of the world. But the Parsis which came to India, they wanted to cross the border and enter into India, and they had a plan to settle there. But the king of India at that time didn't allow them. He, instead of closing the border, he sent, a very polite refusal by sending one cup of milk, one bowl of milk. That was full, very much full up to the top. It was full. And so that was symbolic of India's fullness, that India was already full. There was no capacity for the Parsi people to enter. At that time, Colonel Brucha tells that our forefathers were not ready to go back, but they were not ready to fight as well. And they were not ready to create any trouble. So they took a kind of sugar and they put that sugar into the bowl and stirred it with their teaspoons. The sugar was mixed up into the bowl of milk, and they returned it to the prince who had brought this bowl of milk. And this prince went the same thing. He reported to his king, and so he explained the symbol that the Parsi people have mixed up the sugar in the milk, and so they would say that they would mix up with the Indian society in the same way as the sugar has mixed up with the milk. In that way, they will be sweetening milk. In the same way, Parsi people, when they come into the Indian culture, they are saying that they will be sweetening the Indian culture. So that's why the king of that time allowed the Parsi people to enter. So in that way, Colonel Brucha highlights one important diplomatic kind of thing, which the Parsi people had used, and that they had got the success as well. In that way, the success could come to them, they think, walking or running or going along with the kind of diplomacy. And in that way, they will be able to achieve whatever they want. So they refer to their forefathers in that success. And so they say that they will be able to gain the success once again in the same way if they do these things. So what is the whole gist of this chapter? That the meeting of the Parsi people ultimately goes to decide that they have to live in India. They're not going anywhere, and they depend on their qualities of diplomacy, and then so they will be able to live in that India as much as possible. They will be absorbing in the new countries, that is India and Pakistan. In that way, they will be able to do so. So in that way, the success, the kind of diplomacy, the characteristics of the Parsi people, that they can adjust in any society, that goes to show the special qualities of the Parsi people, that they can become useful, they can become happy as well. They can maintain their culture in any society. That has been pointed out by Parsee Sidhwa. So the whole chapter number 5 goes to indicate that the political aspect, the history of Pakistan, the war at that time, the results of the war, and then the Parsi people's decisions, their meeting, their political discourse of that time, all has been indicated in the chapter 5. So I hope that the students will be trying to come out with the short question how the Parsi people had the meeting and what was their ultimate decision as well. Let's talk about chapter number 6, and this chapter number 6 is not that important, but however, it has certain things in it which should be discussed and talked about. The chapter continues with the continuity of the Parsi people's description as well. But in chapter 6, if you just leave the first passage and then leave the second passage and come to the third one, that passage goes to discuss the beauty of the mother of this Lenny. Anybody remembers the name of that mother? I think everybody should remember. So this is the passage basically that we are talking about right now. I may blacken it so that everybody may be able to see it. So here is the chapter. Here is the chapter and the paragraph that we are going to discuss about from here, which is being circled by my computer. It is in the box now. Let me read this paragraph for you. It's very important. For example, Lenny is saying, ever since Colonel Brucha tugged my tendon and pressed my heel down in the fire temple, mother massages my leg. I lie diagonally on the bed, my small raised foot between her breasts. She leans forward and pushes back the ball of my foot. She applies all her fragile strength to stretch the stubborn tendon. So up to this extent, reference is given to the foot and the leg of Lenny. It's not in good shape, and the mom is massaging most of the time to make it as good as possible. In fact, there is more description of the mother. For example, let's continue. Her flesh like satin shifts under my foot. I gaze at her, shaded by the scar. Her features require sharper definition. The tipped chin curves deep to meet the lower lip. The lip full foam tipper form a lavish M in wide wings. Their outline etched with the clarity of cut rubies. Her nose is slender, slightly bumped, and the taut curve of her cheekbones is framed by a jaw as delicately oval as an egg. The hint of coldness common to such chiseled beauty is overwhelmed by the exuberant quality of her innocence. I feel she is beautiful beyond bearing. Now, students, you can see how dearly Lenny is praising her mother. But she's not praising her as a kind of kind person, or as a kind of soft person, or a sympathetic person, or a harsh person. She is praising the physical features. I mean, Lenny is a girl and she's a girl child, but still, she's highlighting the kind of beautiful figure features of the woman, like it's the kind of M shape, and then full lips and beautiful ruby lips, and the nose and the cheekbones, and ultimately the jaws are being pointed out just like an egg, oval egg. So all these things go to point out that she was really a beautiful woman. So in that way, we can see that how much regard this person Lenny has for her mom. The beginning lines, for example, her flesh like satin. It means she was so soft and she was so delicate type of woman. And that is the kind of regard, or that's the kind of respect and honor. That's the kind of love which Sidhwa had for the description of the mom. I mean, the Lenny's mom is being talked about, the possibility to make the mom of that writer as well. The beauty of that mom is being talked about. Maybe the mom is not that beautiful, but the girls are of the habit to take their moms in a very beautiful way, and that's once again the characteristics of Lenny as a narrator, that she's very much absorbed in observation of the beauty of the mother, and that's why this type of beauty has been talked about. So you can take these lines to use in Lenny's characteristics as narrator, or you can also take these lines in order to describe the character of the mother of Lenny as well. So this is what we can say about this part of the chapter. This chapter 6 is very small. There's nothing important to be talked about in this chapter. But you see, this chapter, as the star is indicating this one, as the cursor is highlighting, this star, after that one paragraph goes to indicate that where Lenny was living, that place was inhabited by the Christians also, by the Sikhs also, by the Hindus also. So one of the first passage goes to indicate the Shankars, as you can see the last word is here, Shankars. Shankars were the couple who had freshly married, and these people were very happy, very young couple, and they were enjoying their life, and they were very romantic couple as well. Lenny has given, or we can say the writer has given details here about the love. For example, if you look at this line where the cursor is present, the line says, "Darling, darling, I have come." So as soon as Mr. Shankar would come from outside, he would address his wife and he would ask his wife to, tell that he has come, and in the same way, the wife would also come out to receive. Geeta is the name of that wife. She would come out to receive, and by saying, "My life, my lord, you have come." So that goes to indicate the romanticness of the marriage which these people were enjoying at that time. That was not a love marriage; it was the marriage, arranged marriage, but still, the couple was really very happy. And not only this couple was happy, many other people were also happy in the same place where Aya was living, where Lenny was living, and they were most of the time, remembering the stories of the subcontinent, especially the story of Punjab, love stories of Punjab. One of the story which has been mentioned by Sidhwa, for example, if you look at where the cursor is moving, you can see here, for example, Aya's eyes. If you look at and likening it all together, you can see that. Beautiful Sony, handsome Mahiwal. These are the words used, and the Shankar wife and Shankar man, the husband, they would sometimes talk about these stories, and they would say that he can be the Mahiwal and she can be the beautiful Sony. So in that way, Bapsi Sidhwa has taken a lot of time in mentioning and referring to the tales of Punjab. Definitely, these tales make Punjab more romantic and beautiful, but these are very helpful for the young people also, that they may think about these stories and in their hearts and mind. And for example, many of you may be thinking yourself to the Mahiwal, and many of my girl students may be thinking that they are the Sonis. But whatever the case may be, this is the habit of the imams that they may talk about that. So one cannot say that 100%, novel of Bapsi Sidhwa is 100% a novel which is only about the history of Pakistan. But it's also a type of romance also, because a novel cannot be a novel most of the time when it doesn't have the love stories in it. One of the love stories, but number of love stories are here. And reference to these past cultural love stories also goes to show that Bapsi not only is highlighting the Parsi culture, she's also highlighting the Punjabi culture also. That is the beauty of the post-colonial literature as well, that it goes to talk about the local cultures and local kind of things as well. Rather, it has become even more stressing at that time. So these type of aspects of the novel make it the post-colonial novel as well. So in that way, the whole story is repeated. The whole story of Mahiwal and Soni has been repeated. Even the incident of cutting off his flesh and making the kebab and not giving to Sony, that's a very ridiculous thing. I don't believe in that. But maybe so the lover was so mad that he did this type of thing. Whatever the case may be. He barbecued his, as you can see in the first passage, that Mahiwal was barbecuing the piece of his thigh in order to give a kebab to, I can just vomit if the kebab is made up of the thigh of a man. But this is the kind of dedication or the love that possibly is having. So in that way, love story has been talked about in detail in order to reflect the love story of the Shankars, young people. So in that way, some other talks has been done also about the people. Hari, for example, Hari's wife is beating all the time. The young Papo, she's beating, and mostly it's very harsh. So on the one hand, as a loving couple, on the other hand, we have a beating couple as well, who would always be very angry, very, very upset about the girls who are not working hard, who are not staying at all. So a lot of beating was received by Hari's daughter, Papu. So in that way, the whole of the chapter goes to talk about not only the Parsi people, but also the Punjabi people, but also the Hindus and, the other people in this chapter as well. So this is all about today. We have discussed a lot, for example, and I hope that 10 students are present here. That's nice. 10 is a big figure out of the 25 people. That's very great of you people. You people are great, really. Okay, so anyways, I would like to wrap up everything by saying that, well, whole of these two chapters are important in many ways. Number one way is the political aspect. Number two is the history. Number three is the observation of the Parsi culture as was done by Lenny. And number four is the reflection to other people who are also living there. The writer's purpose is to make the people understand that there are many types of people who are living together before partition, and after that, a lot of bad things happen after the partition. So this is all about these two chapters. So if you people have a question, you can ask. I'm not forcing you people to ask the question, because I know it's Friday today, or everybody may be with fast, and you may be like to run away from this lecture as soon as possible. But still, If you have a question, I can wait for just 1 minute, and after that, I shall be closing it down. So, anybody has a question? Uh, Nobody is putting the question. All right. So that's it from me for this day. Hopefully, seeing you next time. And concentrate on the assignment which has been given to you on Google Classroom. Revert back your answers, whatever you have got, put it there so that we may continue with that. Very fascinating activity is waiting for you on Google Classroom. Very soon, you will be having lots of things in that. We are going to do a very interesting activity on that. But first, the current assignment finishes, and after that, the new activity will begin. So that's it. Hopefully, you have enjoyed it. Viewers and students who have enjoyed it, and everybody, whoever has learned even a little part of this, kindly go ahead to the subscribe button and hit the subscribe button as well. We are still lacking 150 subscribers to complete the figure of 1,000. So that's it from me. Bye bye.